Split Happens, a podcast sponsored by Sasso Guerrero and Tenderlight, explores the emotional and legal challenges of divorce, offering insight and real-world advice to help families navigate change with clarity, compassion, and resilience.
I'm Katie Garner.
And I'm Jay Hinderlight. I'm a board-certified marital and family law attorney at Sasso Guerrero and Hinderlight, and this
is Split Happens. We're here today to talk about a really important topic because going back to the word of fear, which you've heard us say in a couple of our podcasts, because fear is really the basis. When you are getting divorced, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety. And one of those big fear topics is, he's getting everything, I'm getting nothing, I'm gonna be on the streets, me and the kids. It's not true. It's not true, you know? And I think there's a real natural nuance to having that fear. Especially if it's a one-parent working home, even two, because you're like, what's going to happen? Who's going to pay alimony? What's the deal? But there's a process to all this that I'm even learning more about, and it's interesting.
Yeah, and you know, in my experience, probably 100% of every case I've handled, at some point somebody says to the other person, I'm getting everything, you're getting nothing. It's just part of the process.
It's rude.
So may not be 100%, maybe 94, I don't know, the stats are high. If I had a nickel for every client that's come in and said they've heard that, you know, I would have...
We'd have the beach house in Fernandina we want.
It would be a significant number, only because it's just a natural course of action. And what happens is you hear that, and you hear that when you're in the state of mind thinking, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be totally different, and most of us are conditioned to believe that different is bad, and so we believe it. And we think it's a reality. But I will also say that if it were that easy, if all you had to do was say, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna take this, there would be no reason for me. There'd be no reason for the whole body of law in which I practice, because it just isn't that simple. And so the first thing I'll say from the jump is, I'm getting everything, you're getting nothing. Almost never happens.
Baseless threat.
And the only time it's ever going to happen is if really there's nothing to get, or, for instance, you know, you've got a child in common and one of the parents has a legitimate issue that would be a basis to temporarily suspend time sharing. You know, some real extreme exception. But for most folks, getting a typical divorce or in a typical custody battle, it's not a thing. It's not going to happen.
Right.
But it's really just a consequence of what we've talked about before, kind of the emotional roller coaster that these cases tend to follow. At the very beginning, that's the most stressed people are usually ever going to be, because it's when the things are most unsettled, their life is most in flux, and they don't know how it's going to turn out. But they have to generally put their trust or faith in somebody else, and if they can't figure it out, then they've got a man or a woman in a black robe who's going to make decisions in their life, and that is
a gift.
Unsettling. Well,
it is unsettling. I love that we both use those words, a gift and unsettling,
right?
Because it's a bit of both, right? You know that it's going to be settled fairly, because again, that's what you're here for. But it's also something where if you let fear really build on that, you're going to borrow worry from tomorrow that you don't need to borrow, you know?
And as cases progress and as time moves on, those feelings start to dissipate on both sides for the most part. And, you know, marriage is a contract, right? We don't think about it. That's not what they tell us. You know, it's not till death do us part. It's not, well, in the event of divorce, these are your entitlements under Florida Chapter 61. But at the end of the day, right, that's kind of, I do, right? But that's kind of how it works. And you don't pay attention to it or think about it in terms of a contract until you're actually getting divorced, only if the marriage is over. So it takes time to move from the idea that we all have that this is love and commitment and happily ever after that has turned into not so happily ever after, and get to the place where we're thinking about it in terms of just a contract.
Just a contract. And I don't think people getting divorced think like this, but I would just be like, you did love this person at one point, right? You did love them. You don't want to see somebody out there struggling, and there's no need to struggle because things get divided, you know? It's actually pretty easy if you just let go and let your lawyer, let your spouse, like, let each other make the decision. You know, maybe you have 3 homes, maybe you have 1 home, maybe you're deciding what to do with it. I think it's interesting though, just the way the panic comes in. And I get it. I mean, it would be a scary time, especially you've got kids in private schools that do camps or public schools that do whatever they want, sporting activity. You got to pay for that somehow. And you just are like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to do it? Yeah.
Right. It's one of those things where, I mean, you say easy. Sometimes it can be easier. Sometimes it can be a little more complicated. But it's going to work out. You know, there is going to be that endpoint where there's a resolution, whether it's a resolution that happens by agreement or a resolution that comes from the court. It's going to get resolved. It's going to get resolved within the framework of the legal system of whatever statutory scheme you're operating under. And so there are parameters beyond just somebody saying, I'm going to get what I want because I'm really mad or I'm entitled to it or whatever. And so if you are in the middle or at the beginning of one of these types of cases and the person on the other side has said that they're getting everything and you're getting nothing, or if you have thought to yourself, I want everything, I'm going to take it, you'll be forgiven for thinking that or hearing that. But that's not the way it's going to play out.
No. That's why it's called split, you know?
Right. Because split happens, right? Most of us are going to go through this in some form or fashion. There have been lots of us who have gone through it before. There's lots of experience in how these cases get resolved. And so having that knowledge, having that confidence, I think helps people move past that point of feeling like it's all going to fall apart or it's all just going to be terrible.
What's a typical timeline? You know, you go in and you're like, oh my gosh, how long is this going to take? I'm on the fence. I've got anxiety. I'm hurt. You know, what's the timeline usually? I'm sure it varies. I'm sure.
Well, it definitely varies, and it depends on complexity of the case and things like that. But, you know, typically, though, it takes 3 to 4 months before people really get to the state of mind where they're able to focus on their marriage as a contract and not focus so much on the emotional aspect of it. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes people get there faster. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know the science behind it, but that's typically what I see. And so until people get there, though, much as they want it done, it's really hard to make decisions on emotion. And it's really hard to make good decisions when those choices are coming from an emotional place. So time, really, more than anything else, is a great stabilizer.
It is funny. They do say time heals all, and it does. Like, it really does. You probably are going to meet somebody else, you know, if you want to. They're going to have stuff you're going to acquire. And if you get divorced twice, you get to split that too.
Well, I don't even want to skip the second divorce. But for the first one, give it time.
I got a friend. He just got engaged. 4th time, okay? And I'm telling you, this man is in a hole. I'm like, he doesn't care if I say that. I'm not saying his name. And he doesn't even live here. But I'm like, what are you doing? You know?
Well, did he marry any of these people or he's just engaged 4 times?
He's married 3 times. They took him to the cleaners. Split happens, man.
Split happens, but I think he's the problem.
He is.
Anyway.
Lost his boat. She took it. Lost his house in the second one. She took it.
Presti had boat money by the 4th one. Nevertheless.
A dinghy. That's what he's gonna make. I'm really off topic today, you guys. But it's great. I think it's funny he's getting engaged
I don't recommend the
time.
multiple marriages. It's not a good financial strategy.
It's not. Yeah.
Maybe for the divorce lawyers.
I am personally looking for
But
somebody.
I'm even not advocating for that.
I'm looking for somebody, speaking of time, that doesn't have much. A 90-year-old with a weak heart and a strong stock portfolio that I can marry and then ultimately give you a call and be like, well, his hearing went. He's not paying me attention. And I get the yacht.
Yeah, I don't think that's how that would work. But,
Sorry to share, just if anyone's out there.
but it's good that you're dreaming.
Dream big.
Back to the podcast. After the time passes, after everyone can start thinking about, you know, the marriage is a contract, that's when most of these cases resolve. If it's going to go to trial, it's going to take a while just because it takes a while to get onto a court's calendar. But by that point, hopefully, you're going to start feeling better.
Yes.
Start having your plan. Start putting together the things you're going to need to make the next phase of your life the best phase of your life.
I love that. Yeah. We only live once too, you know? It's like you want to resolve things. You want to know that you're going to be okay. You're not put on this earth to suffer or worry. And things, like you said, the divorce rate is huge.
Right.
They're not the first. They won't be the last.
More than half of us.
Yeah. So, you know, one thing I really want to bring up too with this is just the fact of people acquire a lot of stuff, you know? And people acquire a lot of people in their world, whether it be a lot of kids or a lot of whatever. And judges are there for a reason, I think, to be fair. I've always thought that was really neat. You know, they're very fair, it seems like.
For the most part, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So people worry, and all they have to do is just stay calm and know it's going to get resolved eventually, right?
Easier said than done, but yes, that is absolutely the case.
We are so thankful that you tuned into our podcast today and every day that they air. We love being with you, and if you have questions or comments, leave them below, or feel free to email in, and we'll talk about them on our next one.